Hello, and welcome to another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road. The Midwest Rail Rangers, our 501c3 nonprofit organization, presents onboard educational programs across the Midwest. You may have caught us on the South Shoreline, between Chicago and South Bend, Indiana, aboard the Sky Parlor car at the Wisconsin Great Northern, on an Amtrak charter organized by the 20th Century Railroad Club of Chicago, on private rail excursions featuring heritage equipment, and at various outreach events such as Train Fest and Mad City Rail. In March of 2020, the coronavirus sidelined most of our programs. After taking a few months off, we returned with virtual programs, taking you to exciting rail destinations across Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, and Wisconsin. With 2021 now here, we hope to begin the transition back to doing in-person programs. During the months ahead, though, we will continue to bring you new virtual programs as well. So sit back and relax and enjoy another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road.
Well, hello everyone. It's July 18th and we're here at the Burlington, Missouri River Railroad Company, and we're here with Ed, which is on his personal caboose here. We'll wait for cameraman to bring it back around.
Yeah.
Burlington Northern caboose. So I've been in our series showing you several cabooses. And
Caboose.
Cabooses.
Caboose.
Don't argue with me.
Yeah, okay.
So we're going to hop on board and let Ed give us a little tour of this caboose. All right, well, welcome aboard, everyone.
Wow.
So this is Ed, and he's going to be our tour guide aboard this caboose.
All right.
So tell us the history, Ed.
Well, originally this caboose was built by the Great Northern Railway in 1960 in their shops in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And after the merger with the CB&Q and the Northern Pacific, it became a BN caboose. And it turned green like all the rest of them. After the cabooses fell out of favor with the railroads.
So it is cabooses. Is that the official term?
the plural.
Depending on who you ask.
Okay, all right. I just thought I would ask. Okay.
The railroad donated a lot of them to small towns around
Really?
the Midwest, and we actually ran across this in Louisiana, Missouri. It was on display in their downtown.
Okay.
And there were some issues with the building it was next to. One part of it collapsed. They couldn't get it stabilized without removing the caboose. And the city actually had got done with what they really wanted it for, and they were looking for somebody to save it.
Okay.
And my friend Ron, which you'll meet him here in a little bit, he just happened to be going by, and he stopped to take a picture of it, and there was a lady standing there, and she says, "You want to buy that?" He says, "Is it for sale?" She says, "Sure."
Yeah.
And she sent him down to City Hall, and
Really?
And like I say, their goal was to save it. There were a lot of people that bid on it, but they were going to scrap it. They wanted it for the steel.
Wow.
And the city was very against that, and we proposed what we wanted to do with it, and they were very receptive, and they were very helpful getting all the utility issues handled, getting it out of town. And we got her moved up here and got it set back on the track, and we've done a few things to it. There's a lot more to do, or we'd like to be able to paint it back in the original Great Northern paint.
Oh, we gotta.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Is that this actual one, or
No.
are those sister?
Those two still survive. There's 3 of this model. And
Wow.
let's see. The X32 is in Baldwin City, Kansas, on a tourist railroad there. And I believe the X40 is somehow involved with the Brooklyn Street Roundhouse out in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
So that would be the colors that you would want.
Yeah, that's what it was originally.
Okay.
We've run across photos of it when it was big sky blue.
Oh.
In a town 40 miles from here on the main line.
Really?
And it's been by here.
Have you taken off the paint? Have you seen all the different layers under it? Or?
Well, they sandblasted. After the city got this, they sandblasted it.
Oh, okay.
And they primed it. And the goal was, I'm not sure what they were going to paint it. But they got rid of the green and yellow, and they got it primed. And I don't know whether they ran out of money. Maybe other things were more important in small towns. And so they went ahead and painted the Burlington Northern lettering back on it till they had more time. And they, like I say, things changed, priorities changed, and that's how we ended up with it.
Have you restored all this? Could we take a look?
It
Or?
was basically everything except the stove was here.
Oh, okay.
They were doing Santa Claus in here,
Oh, okay.
and it got to be a handicap issue.
Ah.
People climbing up and down the steps, and
Very cool.
So, what is the number one thing that you would want to restore first to bring it back to its original condition?
the outside paint.
The outside.
Maybe number one.
Okay.
Would you mind giving us a little tour of the inside, kind of showing us some of the features of your...
We've got a conductor's desk here, and a train radio, so they could converse with the dispatcher or the engineer on the train. And another desk just like it here.
And we've seen a lot of these. A couple of people. Well, that's a signal, but a lot of people might not know that.
Yeah,
that
that's a switch lamp.
A switched lamp.
Back in the days when they used kerosene.
So would it would turn then yellow or green or red? It would
Whichever way the switch is turned.
Okay.
When you pull the lever on the switch on the track, it swivels the lantern.
Okay.
So the train crews know which way the switch is pointed.
Okay.
And in the dark, you can't see them very well, but that's why they put the kerosene lamps on them.
Very cool.
And at one time, there was kerosene lamp on every switch on every railroad.
Really?
And somebody had to go fill them with kerosene every day.
Wow, that's.
I'm assuming somebody went and turned them back down in the morning.
Be a good job for an
and
intern.
went back and relit them in the evening.
Yeah, there you
Wow.
go.
It'd be quite a job just for one person.
I imagine.
And we got a calendar over here, I see.
1942.
Wow.
Well, let's see. If I was born in 1942,
Oh yeah, your
I would have
birthday.
been born on a Sunday.
There you go. There you go. And you'd be what, 80? Be 81 years
Yes,
old too.
yes,
So
81. That's
there you
I
go.
look pretty good for my age.
there you go.
All right. Well, let's go to my favorite place of the caboose.
Ah, the cupola. So what year? I don't think you said. Sorry if you did. What year did you move this up then from Louisiana?
I believe it was 2012.
Oh, so pretty. So within the last 10 years or so.
Yes.
Then. Oh, okay. And how many crews would be on here, or?
Generally, there were two crew members in the engine.
Okay.
In the steam days, it was an engineer and fireman. After the diesel days, they still called the fireman a fireman for a lot of years. And back here, you had the conductor and a brakeman. And sometimes there was 2 brakemen, depended on the business of the train. If it was a through train, you usually had 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And they sat up here and checked out the sides of the windows to look for hot boxes, which is a hot wheel bearing on a rail car.
Okay.
And that was basically an office plus somebody to keep an eye on the train.
Okay.
If you saw smoke coming up somewhere, you signaled the engine to stop, and they'd...
Not like the detectors like we have today.
Right.
Yeah.
This was the safety measure then.
So what was your interest in railroading? How did you get started with this whole?
My dad, when I was a little boy, he had all kinds of Lionel trains, and it just stuck.
So it started with model railroading.
Yeah.
And then you decided to go into the 1x1 scale, I guess.
Volunteered for several years at our narrow gauge steam railroad out here at the park.
Oh, okay. Old Threshers.
Part of Old Threshers.
Okay.
And it just, once you've got the bug, it never goes away.
Nice.
I never had the bug, and I have it now.
She bugs me a lot.
Let's say it won't go away.
So what do we have back here, or what do you have plans for? Well, we have the toilets.
Yeah.
You gotta go. You gotta go.
I'm good.
Oh, okay.
The one that's
Not a lot of privacy.
Well, the bathroom's in here.
Oh, okay.
And when the city had it,
There we go. Okay, that's a little bit better.
they replaced the railroad toilet with a porcelain unit.
Okay.
And that is the original sink, and we're pretty sure that toilet's a close match to what was originally in it.
Okay.
And we're going to swap that out and put that in there.
Gotcha. What would have been back here in this area? Would this were the beds probably, or
there was another conductor's desk in this corner.
Oh, okay. All right.
And over here on this corner was the fuel oil tank for the stove.
Oh, okay.
And we've got one to put in here. It just needs to be painted and a few little dings taken out of it. We're going to get it put back in.
Okay. Very cool. Is this floor original?
Yes.
Or this would have been
The original flooring.
floor. Okay.
And there's also, I don't know what kind of wood it is, going across the sill this way, and then the hardwood floor is laid on top of it the other way.
Okay.
So you've basically got 3 or 4 inches of floor at least.
Nice. So what is your restoration plans then for back here, or what do you plan to do with this?
Well, like I say, we get this fuel oil tank in, and if we can find another conductor's desk, which would be quite a deal, considering there's not many cabooses left.
Oh, cool. Look at that. You got the original first aid kit still left.
It is, and they welded it right to the side of the car.
So it's there forever now, unless you decide to take it off.
They wanted to make sure that nobody ran off with it, I'm assuming.
eBay. That was before eBay, probably.
Yes. But I would imagine there was just as much stuff went away from the railroad when people went home from work as...
We're kind of peeking out here the window of your property. So what, you want to tell us the history of the railroad here, of what we're going to be exploring here, and then I guess we're going to be back in 3 weeks to check out some more of this. But what is kind of the history of the whole property, if you have a few minutes?
Originally, the CB&Q built from Chicago to Galesburg, Illinois, and got the railroad built down to the east side of the Mississippi at Burlington.
Okay.
In those days, the government gave the railroad land grants.
Okay.
The railroad would sell land to anybody that would buy it along the railroad to finance building the railroad.
Okay.
At the time, they had about at the limit of their land grants. So they formed a different company called the Burlington, Missouri River Railway. And it built from Burlington to the Missouri River at Plattsmouth.
Oh, okay.
And the same situation, the government gave them land grants. And they sold land to people, and that's how the town sprung up along the railroad.
Okay.
So, and once they got there, then there was another company formed. It was the Burlington, Missouri River Railway of Nebraska.
So each state almost had their own company
Just
back.
about.
Okay.
And they progressed across Nebraska into Colorado and Wyoming and South Dakota.
Okay.
And in 1874, I think, the CB&Q, this was built in 1856 here.
The tracks,
Yes.
tracks. Okay.
In 1874, the CB&Q went ahead and absorbed the Iowa part of the Burlington, Missouri River.
Okay.
The Nebraska part continued to exist under that name until 1905 or 6.
Oh.
But the CB&Q controlled all of it. They had the money in it. They controlled all 3 railroads. So, in 1899, originally when they built railroads, they took the easiest route they could. And if you've got a horse in a slip, you don't move very much dirt in today's time, like they do today with dozers and scrapers.
There you go.
They followed the easiest terrain they could find, which made the mileage longer. There was always a lot more curves. So, over the years, we had steam-powered shovels, things like that. They decided to take some of the curves out, straighten some of the track, take some of the grades out of it. And in 1899, they built the track here to the south.
So what you're looking at, for those of us watching live out your window,
tree line right there.
The tree line is, that's where today's California Zephyr Amtrak line. So if you rode the California Zephyr, you'd be going right on your, is that your south edge of your property? Or south edge is where those trees are.
Side of those trees.
Okay. That's the current line.
Yes.
Okay. And when was that, you know, around when that was built?
1899.
1899. But originally you owned some land out here we could take a look at, right behind your caboose. And that's, so this is the original line, is what you're saying, in 1856?
This is where the original railroad was built.
On your property now?
Well, it wasn't my property.
Well, no.
But your property now.
So this right here is, so the railroad at some point they moved from where the tree line is to here. And let's go down and we can take a look maybe.
Got it?
Candace will help me here. Sometimes it's hard when you're live.
Yeah, there you go. Turn around.
All right. Hi, everybody. All right. All right. So this is what you were talking about. This is the original railroad line, which you now own. So how did it go from where you owned it now to over there, and why did you purchase this? I guess, what's the story there?
I lived in town. Always wanted to live in the country. Knew that this would be a great spot. In the wintertime, you could see the fill back down here in the trees from the highway. So I knew the railroad used to go through here. Eventually, it came up for sale, and that was the goal, was to try to acquire
some of the original land. That is pretty cool. You said there's stuff down here to look at, or that you and Ron were going to show us, or some of the original tracks, or?
We've got a couple pieces of the old original rail.
Do you? Down here? Yeah. From 1856? Yeah. Could we walk down there and take a look? Sure. Okay. Were these, I presume these sidings were not here. You put these in to go to the high rail, to your shops, and then off as a siding there? Or were these weren't originally?
No, we have no idea what was here.
Oh, okay.
Other than the main line.
Other than just the main line.
Straight through.
You're talking 1856, so was that single track or double track?
Single
what was
track.
It was just single track, okay. Has it ever been double track through this area, or has it always been?
It's double track where it is today, over here.
Oh, it is double track, okay. Which is through most of Iowa, is the...
all the way to Creston, right?
Is it? Burlington?
Yes, double track. We'll double track.
And there's Ron. Hi.
Hi guys. Hello again.
We remember Ron last, I think, September. He did our tour of the Mount Pleasant Depot. So welcome back. I think you're our first repeat guest. People just loved you so much. We're going to have you back for another time.
Fantastic. So, glad to be back.
Yeah, our local other rail historian.
But yes, when the CB&Q constructed all this, and when they started, as Ed said, when they started the track realignment projects around the turn of the century, then everything all the way from Chicago down to Galesburg through here and all the way over to Creston, Iowa, which is out in southwestern Iowa, was all double track. And actually at one time there was double track even west of Creston yet.
Really?
Most of the way to the Missouri River.
Okay.
However, in the economic downturn in the 70s, the
1970s, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
1970s.
I guess we
right.
should say for
1970s. Burlington Northern Railroad decided in their infinite wisdom that track west of Creston could go down to single, so they took everything from Creston all the way to the Missouri River back down to single track and CTC'd that. So
okay.
And it has essentially more or less remained that way clear up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
They have put in some extended sidings out in that area now where they can pass trains, but more or less the double track ends at Creston.
So what's the deal with the signals before we move on? These are real working signals?
Yes. They were originally on this track that they use today over here.
Really? Okay. Is there a story of how you...
They had to upgrade the signaling system, and we know several people work for the railroad. They put up a brand new set of signals right over the hill here on this side of that overpass.
And that's used by Amtrak today, those
Yes.
new signals? Okay.
And you just kind of get a little nosy and you go out and see what's going on, and then you come back with a 12-pack of Pepsi, and that does wonders for the guys that are working.
Okay.
Especially in the heat of the summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, if you guys got a couple extra ones of them when you get done putting the new ones up, we'd sure like to have some.
Let's preserve them for your museum. Yeah.
These searchlights that we're looking at right now were installed through here in 1921 and 1922.
That's how old those are?
That's how old those signals are.
Wow.
Prior to that, they had signaling on this track, but it was all blade signals, semaphores, blades.
Oh, really?
So that's how it was signaled prior to the color light searchlights here that we're looking at. And those were installed through here in 21 and 22, and those stayed up when, Ed, till 1996?
I think so.
96, 97,
yeah.
somewhere right in that area is where when they came through here and did the big signaling project, they took all these down and now have just vertical 3-light, tri-light vertical signals out here.
Okay.
So
these were kind of the second of 3 generations of...
These are kind of the intermediate of
and you guys, you guys wired them up? You guys wired them up, yes. And so they change, and you can...
right now you have to change it with a switch.
Okay. But they light up and
eventually they'll be hooked to that switch stand in that control box, so when you turn the switch, the lights will change on the signal.
And you guys, did it require a lot of wiring, or was it...
Really?
No, not too bad. Okay.
Most of your difficulties getting power to them from somewhere.
Okay. True.
The railroad used batteries and
really
their pole line
okay
to run their power along the tracks, and when they put up all these new signals, they put them somewhere close to a road so they could get power from the local utility.
Okay.
And that way they didn't have to maintain their pole line. If you had a big windstorm like we did a couple weeks ago through the middle of Iowa, all their signals wouldn't work anymore.
Oops. That would be a lot of slow going, I would think.
And we've had a few ice storms where they've had to bring generators out.
Keep them going.
The batteries will only last 3 or 4 days. Each one of those sheds has a lot of electronics in it and a whole series of batteries wired together to make it so if the power does go out, they'll continue to work for safety.
Okay.
So our goal here, guys, if Ed and I live long enough, is to extend this track clear down in there, way into the trees.
Okay.
Right to the edge. There's a creek back in there.
Okay.
And I'm sure back in the day there was a fairly impressive timber trestle across that creek, but
okay,
we've got enough rail and stuff to go all the way back there. So the couple hundred feet we have here now, hopefully someday will be about 1,600 or 1,700.
And you said there's some cool stuff back there to look at?
Yeah.
All right. Let's sorry to interrupt. I just, while we're passing the signals, I figure we'll ask about your signals there. And is this, let me ask, is this, because people are probably wondering, they've never heard of this, is this just something kind of private? Is this public, or can people, they want to tour this? Is this something you open up, or is this just kind of what your little hobby, or more than a hobby? But I don't know what, if you're a museum, if you're just open for you guys and some friends, or how does that work?
We hope to be open more to the public than what we are.
You do, okay.
More track and maybe a little more equipment.
So this is the right of way. This is kind of when you bought the land. This is what.
Keep in mind, right here, what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Ed's a heavy equipment operator by trade.
Well, that probably helps with some of this, hey?
That helps tremendously. But what we're looking at here, over years of all the erosion from both sides on these hills.
Yeah.
This was all. There was probably another what? Probably 3.5, 4 foot of dirt.
Oh, okay. So this is dug out.
So.
Oh, okay.
For years, and they may have even shoved some dirt back in here to, as I'm sure when the railroad did it, when they cut it through here, it was just enough for the railroad track.
Okay.
When I did it, I sloped it enough we could keep it mowed and trimmed up looking nice.
Okay. And when did you buy this property then?
About 2000.
Okay. So it probably had 100 years of other people who lived out here.
Yes.
Between when the railroad sold it in 1899-ish. And okay.
Yeah, so Ed removed a lot of dirt down through here, and also brought his grade laser out here and put all this that you see here.
Yeah.
Was sloped back to the original grade.
Wow.
When the railroad built this. So.
Okay. Wow.
About a 1.5% grade from this creek back here.
Okay. And so, like you said, it was just upgrading the, eliminating some of the sharper curves and things like that. That's the reason why they moved this. And was that common? Was there a lot of the original, I mean, what we're looking at, where they moved the railroad bed, the CB&Q would, is this a pretty common thing? Is there a lot of stretches of rail that are like this? Or is it rare that they move the tracks over there? Or?
Actually, pretty common.
Pretty common. Okay.
Up to this point, there's a larger creek east of us here, about 1/2 to 3/4 of a mile.
Okay.
And up to that point, the current double main line track is on the original alignment. And from that bridge this way, it's realigned for 7 miles clear out to the Skunk River.
So when people are riding on Amtrak and they think, oh, this is the original bed of the CB&Q, they're running on a lot of different stretches, I guess.
It is not. That is correct. That's all after 1899. And there's actually large stretches of it even west of us for a long ways that were realigned significantly around that same time.
So you might be riding on alignment from a lot of different eras.
Very possibly.
Yeah.
But what's amazing when we get back down in here, now keep in mind that the rail was probably pulled here, I'm sure, sometime probably in 1900, maybe even yet in 1899. I'm not sure. No way to ever know, probably. But this fill is just remarkably intact back here, undisturbed for all those years. And other than removing a few trees, it looked basically just like this when Ed bought it. So
there were 3 trees growing in this right of way. And I'm sure somebody had mowed it later in life.
So is this just farm country, or, I mean, farms, or?
Yeah, just farming, agricultural out here. So.
Okay.
But we're getting back into a little bit of timber here, and I'm sure that's the reason it was undisturbed. And the ground's kind of rough back here, a lot of trees. It just probably was never worth anyone's time to remove all this fill and make it farmable. Well, we have a deer up there over the edge of the hill.
Oh dear. Oh wow.
So our goal here at some point
would be to put track all the way back for where we walk.
We're going to put track all the way down through here where we're walking. And then the radius here you see across the pond dam.
Yeah.
And we're going to put a switch in here, and we're going to run rail, which was never there before, because the pond wasn't here before. Ed built the pond.
Oh, okay, all right.
But we're gonna run.
Oh, there's the deer.
We're gonna run rail across that pond dam in a sweeping curve over up to the edge of the current railroad property. Then.
Oh, okay. And that's still where the California Zephyrins is
Yes, right
okay.
on the tree line.
Okay. So eventually you want to be open to the public and give rides and be a public open more?
Like Ed said, we would like to be more public. I mean, that's his decision. It's his property.
Oh,
But
yeah.
We'd like to be more public than we are now.
Yeah.
Because it's just more or less a fairly controlled group of us that come
Okay.
back here and work and play. So.
Okay. Are you a nonprofit right now, or just kind of individual?
We are not a nonprofit currently.
Oh, okay.
However, we would definitely like to make that happen at some point.
Okay.
So.
I can help you with some of the paperwork. It's tons of fun. We got to do that with.
Fantastic.
We got to become an independent nonprofit in December of 2018, and oh yeah, the money and the paperwork. It's lots of fun. But
yes, I'm sure it is.
so this will kind of showing where we, all the way back there is where we started our walk. And
So
how far is
original
this? Is this like a half a mile? It feels like it on a warm
Right
July
after
day
that,
like
If
today.
you look down over the edges, we're on a fairly
Oh.
significant fill here. I mean,
Okay.
By this point, we're above the ground elevation.
Yeah.
A lot, so.
And this was really all cleared. I mean, 100 years, nothing really grew up on this.
Oh, 3 trees.
That is wild. I wonder why.
Not really. If you dig around much, you can still find ballast. There's still some rock under here.
Really.
Spikes occasionally. Ed's found all kinds of stuff. Ladder rung. There's who knows what's under the
That
ground
was
here,
actually
so.
going to be my next question, was when you guys were clearing this property, what kind of cool stuff did you find?
Yeah, well, nothing really cool, but there's definitely some railroad artifacts underneath our feet here. So after all those years, but keep in mind this was the railroad from 1856 to 1899. So
Wow.
now somewhere about at this point, this pole actually marks what's going to be the center line of the track down here.
Okay.
This is the center line of the track from back where.
I mean, it's got to be what, at least a quarter mile? Would you say?
I would guess. Do you
I don't know.
for sure, Ed?
About 1,500 feet.
Okay, so yeah, about a quarter mile.
So somewhere at this point, not sure where, because I'm sure time and weather and erosion has taken a toll, but someplace here, the timber had to start, because there was a good sized timber trestle across here to the other side of the creek. We can walk down here. I don't know if we can see any of it right now. Probably not with all the vegetation.
Yeah.
But there's actually down in the creek bed here, just back to the north a little bit of the track alignment, there's some huge pieces of cut stone that are remnants of that old bridge. So.
Any of the actual timbers did you find?
There
Or
are some in the creek.
you could still see some
There
there.
under the water.
And the bridge is 1856, Burlington? Wow.
You don't want to get too close.
No,
We're
poison
right-
ivy or whatever,
If
yeah.
you can get a shot straight across there in the sun, see
Oh,
those
I
huge
can.
pieces of stuff?
Yeah, let me
stone?
zoom in live for our viewers here.
Those are all part of the original.
So you're looking at
bridge.
the stone right there?
All those big pieces of stone on the
Yeah,
creek.
yeah, there's like 3 of them.
And I wish you could see this in the fall, because down here to our right, this way, on the
Mhm.
far side of the creek, on that far bank, there is a hand-laid cut stone retaining wall that goes clear back almost to the current track alignment, and it's still just in remarkable condition. It was all hand-laid stone in there. And
Wow.
most of that, there's a few pieces of it that have collapsed a little bit, but most of that retaining wall that they built is still there.
Wow.
And that's really impressive also, but you can't, there's just way too much overgrowth there to see that, so.
And
Actually, and once again, we can't see it, but over on the other side here, the adjacent property owners, back east of Ed, the fill on the other side, clear back to the bridge that I was talking about earlier, the current bridge that's still in use there, all that fill is pretty well intact, clear back there on that east side.
so do you plan to build a trestle then?
Well,
That's my question.
if we do that, somebody's going to have to win the lottery. So.
Oh, okay.
Unless you got one you want to donate and deliver.
What is that, a creek or a river or what is?
It's just a small creek.
Oh, just a small
Yeah,
creek.
yeah.
Wow.
But imagine what we're looking at here, and then imagine the timber structure that probably had to stand here at one time to get from that side to this side.
Do you
It was
think-
probably a fairly significant bridge?
From what you know about the history, do you think the bridge would they have tore the bridge down or down there, or would they have would they have just let it kind of fall down, or just when they moved the track?
That's a good question.
No idea.
You know, 1899, 1900, I'm sure liability issues weren't even thought of at that point. So
They probably dynamited it
So as
back
far as
then.
anyone
Yeah.
falling off of it and getting hurt, I don't know that would have been much of a concern. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know. Who knows?
Have you been any, like the local library or CB&Q Historical Society? Have you ever found an actual picture of the bridge or anything down here?
Never
or
have.
Never have.
No.
Okay.
No, never have, unfortunately. But
Wow.
it would have been a sight to see.
We can hear a train in the distance.
We
I don't know
we
if
have a train coming out of town right now. So.
how many trains a day are on this line then, or
It varies right now. This is still a primary coal moving artery, and we all know what's going on with the coal business. So our traffic, I would say our average traffic in 24 hours now is probably
I think we can hear it now
25
there.
to 30.
Wow.
Might be able to see it.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit through the woods there.
So that gives you guys a little idea how much elevation change there is there between where we're at and where that current track is. We're down over the edge here a little bit, but there's still a significant change in elevation on that new track above where this was.
Very cool. But of course, 2 Amtraks a day through here, I guess.
2 Amtraks a day. But yeah, but I guess back to what I was saying, we're probably, I would say on average in 24 hours, 25 to 30 trains.
Okay.
Now, if you would have gone back to 2004, 2005, when things were really booming and coal traffic was at its peak, we probably had 40 to 50 trains every 24 through here.
Wow.
And that has dwindled down to half of that.
And where did you find that original rail, you said? Tell us about that.
The original rail, now this is pure speculation. We're guessing that this is iron rail that probably came over from Europe, England, somewhere in Europe on a boat.
1856, yeah.
Because think about the time frame we're talking about. There wasn't any manufacturing of railroad rail in this country at that time. It all had to come from across the ocean.
Sure.
But this stuff, we'll go up and look at it here. But the 2 sticks we found were actually down in the creek bed. They were laying down in the creek.
Okay.
And we fished them out of there and drug them up the hill.
So you put your boots on and walked through some, or maybe you did it not in the summer with all the poison ivy and snakes or whatever you got down there. Yeah.
But this stuff is tiny. There's no joiner bar bolt holes in it. It actually has notches back in from the end of the rail.
Really?
Where I think they literally just spiked it end to end.
Wow.
I don't know that there were joiner bars.
I read an article not long ago that they had some kind of a piece that they'd casted that held the 2 pieces of rail together.
In alignment.
You stuck it on the end of this one and stuck the other one in it, but you spiked both ends of the rail on the same tie.
Yeah,
but they had some kind of a little piece that fit across the bottom, up around in the base. They kept it in line.
So different than even the bolted rail that we used to have that was common.
Yeah, I gotta see. So what did you do with it? You have it up here, or?
Yes, we'll walk over and
All
have
right.
a look at it here. So it's remarkably small stuff, and sections are probably, I don't know, what are they at? 8 feet, 9 feet.
If they're that.
Was there any date on them, like
No,
written in the rails?
There's no legible casting, no legible date, nothing on these things. But I'm guessing these probably date back to the original laying of track through here, probably.
So a lot of people own a property like this somewhere across the country, but they probably 99.9% don't appreciate the value like Ed and you do of the history, and they probably just farm it or have their house, or
that's exactly
that's
right.
kind of what. So I see. I thought this was unique, like that you would own some of the original right of way, and I didn't realize how common that they always move the tracks and whatnot. So
yeah, like I said, just west of us, probably in the next, I don't know, 45 or 50 miles to the west of where we're at here, there was major chunks of track realignment done.
I don't know if Candace thinks about that, but you think, oh, the railroad's here and it's always been here. You don't think? I don't think of.
I mean, more and more as I dive into railroad history, I start to understand and appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a learning process.
Yeah.
We're going to take a little detour here on the way to look at the rail.
Okay.
Like I said, our hope is to build some track right there where we just walked.
Yeah.
The radius and across the dam of the pond, and up this way, up near the current main line, which we're just about there. So if we ever get that done, we're gonna bring that track right up to the edge of the railroad.
Which will get done sooner, this or the Zephyr? We should have a gentleman's bet here. Mark, well.
I think you're gonna win that one.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is the mainline California Zephyr.
Here we are on the current alignment.
Okay. And you own right up to the current.
And actually, if you want to, I mean, we'll
line's back here.
we can
We're actually on.
get a look each way down the track here.
All right.
So this way to the west, down there where that overpass and the two signals you can see,
Mm-hmm.
that's about the peak of the grade right there. And from
Okay.
there, it's downhill all the way to the Skunk River. Several
Okay.
miles of downhill from there.
Oh look, you can see on the rail here. I just got to point out it's 2014.
Yeah, that's actually what they've done. That's the date they wrote on the rail when they made that thermite.
Ah.
So, and then as we look back to the east towards Mount Pleasant, the big sweeping curve you see there,
Mm-hmm.
right where that curve is, that's where the track realignment started from the old track that we were
Okay.
on
So it would have
to
ran.
this.
So it would have ran back.
Right
And
there
then-
at the beginning of that curve. So everything
Very
from
cool.
the curve this way is new alignment
Think
in
about-
1899.
Well,
So.
think of all our viewers there when we.
So, if you want to come around here, we're not going to be able to see the end of this, but these pieces are roughly about 8 feet long.
So this is what you're talking about that you.
This is the two chunks that we dug out of the creek bed back there by the trestle. And like I said, you'll notice no joiner bar holes. All we have is notches here, where they put the plates and two pieces of rail and whatever
Wow.
they were using to keep in the line, and then they would spike that down. They would just butt the rails up against each other
Okay.
and spike that. But that's iron rail that had to come someplace from Europe, probably England, who knows. But that is really, really old stuff.
You
that
can
was-
see, you can see probably the reason they took it off, and maybe
So that is pretty cool. The original. Did you? What else do you have in that pile over there besides the original rail? Anything
Oh,
cool?
There's more rail in there. There's switch stands in there. Some more ties.
Why
a
don't
little,
you
a
go
little
dive
bit of
in?
everything in there.
Yeah. So again, what do you plan? What do you plan to do with that original 1856 rail?
We're going to eventually take those two sticks of the original rail that we found in the creek bed, back up by Ed's building, and make a display.
Okay.
We're going to make a ground display on some ties there.
Any
what
of the
that-
original ties too? I see you have. Is that any
Well,
of?
we've got a lot of old ties around here. What happened is, a little brief history here.
Yeah.
All the rail that we're using here to construct this and all the rest of the rail we're going to use basically came out of two industries back in Mount Pleasant here. We had a Bluebird bus plant in there that had about
Oh.
800 or 900 foot siding off the main. And
Okay.
then there was another plant that back in the day manufactured cable, electric wire and cable, and some of the rest of that came out of there. So we were lucky enough to get all that donated to us in
Really?
exchange for us going to tear it out.
Oh, okay.
We saved
Put you
them
to
the
work.
expense of removing it. They wanted it gone, so
Okay.
Ed had the access to the equipment to do it. So we were able to get rail, and part of the deal was we had to take all the ties along with the rail, and most of them were already rotten. So we're gonna need ties at some time. But
Did you find any old spikes or anything down in the
there's
creek
a lot
bed,
of old
or?
spikes. There was some tie plates mixed in there that were actually stamped CB&Q right on top of the tie plate.
Would those have been as old as
CB&QRR.
the rail, or?
They're probably, I imagine those tie plates are 30s, 40s,
Oh, okay.
somewhere
So
in
not,
that
not
era.
quite as old
It's
as.
about to get noisy.
Uh-oh.
We're going to give you guys a shot of a train coming
Oh, good.
westbound out of Mount Pleasant here. So.
And then maybe you could tell us if you know like where maybe it started or ended, if it came from Chicago.
We'll see
A
what
lot of
we
people
have
watching
here.
us tonight from Chicago. They got the 20th Century Railroad Club of Chicago and trainweb.com. We have several people watching tonight. So where would that?
Robert,
What would that?
Candace, you guys will like this too, but that is an Missouri Ameren powertrain out of the St. Louis area.
So that
So
would.
that train.
I'm confused.
That train traversed the same track that your Mark Twain Zephyr did for years and years from St. Louis to Burlington. That train originated in the St. Louis area
Okay.
and came up the west side of the river on what is commonly referred to as the K line. So up through Hannibal, West Quincy, up to Burlington, and then got back on the east-west double track main at Burlington, and they're heading, of course, back out to the Powder River Basin in Wyoming to reload. So.
Oh, so they came up from St. Louis, and then they cut over in Burlington. So that wouldn't have not have come from Chicago.
No, that train did not come from Chicago.
So up from St. Louis, and that's going to go back to Wyoming.
Yes, they're heading back to the Powder River Basin in eastern
How long does that take?
Well, it's several days. I would say good travel on a coal train like that is probably 3.5, 4 days, I would imagine, between crew changes and fueling and et cetera, et cetera. So.
All right.
Well, I want to thank you guys for your wonderful tour of your caboose and your railroad. We're going to be back here in 3 weeks, August 8th.
We got to drive back here?
We do.
Oh, okay.
And they're going to take us on a motor car ride. So
Really? Well, that makes the drive down here worth it for sure.
Definitely. So
When is that program?
August 8th.
Okay, 3 weeks from tonight.
3 weeks from tonight. So
All right.
tune in, and we're going to take you for our second motor car ride.
That's
that we've
right.
Ever been on.
That's right. All right.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.